sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
To be honest with you, I mean, we knew we were going to lose one of the two of them. That's kind of what we felt. We are extremely happy to have Capo still with us. I think with his ability and his cap hit, I mean, he fits perfectly. He's given us some really good years and kind of developed and worked up through the ranks and done the right things. So, he's been very good for us, and we're looking for him to continue to get better.
Billy Guerin reacting to the expansion draft yesterday. We'll get to some of that and what's next for the Wild here. This is Reckless Speculation Thursday, boys. Mackie and Judd.
Reckless Speculation.
Daily Minnesota sports entertainment. We want titles on this show. And Darren Doogie Wolfson provides inside information about your favorite Minnesota sports teams. You can find him as part of the 5 Eyewitness News sports team. You can find him on the Scoop podcast. Happy Reckless Speculation Thursday, everybody. How's everybody doing?
There's so much right now. That's what makes this great. Like, it's July, and ordinarily hockey and basketball would be boring, right? Right now, with the Twins being bad, the trade deadline coming up would be intriguing, but we would be just saying, I hope training camp starts soon because this all stinks. This is fantastic. Hockey, basketball, baseball, Vikings training camp. The amount, if you don't live the lifestyle now, I will say this, you will never, Darren, live the lifestyle of reckless speculation, which all 4 of us on the show embrace.
100% NHL draft beginning tomorrow night. The Wild with 2 first-round picks locally. Chaz Lucius, Grant, Minnesota native. He'll likely go well before the Wild's first of their two picks, but like he fits what they need, right? I mean, he's a centerman, although there's some people in the league that think maybe he eventually moves out to wing, but like there's some intrigue there tying in, the Wild and the best local prospect. Yeah, the NBA draft a week from tonight. The Vikings begin training camp. I mean, guys start to report here later this week, the rookies. The Vikings continue to work on extensions for Brian O'Neill, Harrison Smith. The Major League Baseball non-waiver trade deadline is July 30th, so that is fast approaching a week from tomorrow. It got moved from the 31st to the 30th. They didn't want guys, because there's some Saturday afternoon games on the 31st. They didn't want to run into a situation, which I don't get, but if guys hugging, teammates in the dugout, trades happening while games are in progress. So, I'm thinking, come on, Major League Baseball, feed into it. Feed into the frenzy. Dude, yes. So there's so much going on, even on Gophers men's basketball. Yeah.
One of the highlights of the deadline of my life was I was about 20 years old or so. At the Oakland Coliseum, Jose Canseco on deck. They pull him off the on deck circle because he's just been traded to Texas. Okay, that's better.
And it's happened, right? I mean, yes. The Twins could, in theory, strike a deal with the Tampa Bay Rays tonight, middle of the game.
Yep.
And Nelly Cruz has to be pulled out of the game, so it could happen, but they're trying to avoid it on the actual deadline day. So they moved the deadline this particular year from the 31st to the 30th. But yeah, I mean, Gopher men's basketball is with Ben Johnson at a charity event on Monday. He's still after a wing. So I'm trying to figure out exactly, who he's after. I mean, even I just heard, local basketball player Reed Travis is going to be over at Mayo Clinic Square today. There's something going on with the Wolves today. I think maybe he's just an extra body for pickup, but who else is over there? Who else, is trying out for the Wolves today, and maybe it's not a quote-unquote tryout.
Maybe Ben Simmons is working on his free throw form over there.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, and maybe it's not a tryout, but to me, if Reed Travis is playing pickup at Mayo Clinic Square, there's eyeballs on you. You're on their turf. So I mean, hey, if you're over there, somebody's watching you, there's always a chance to impress. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff going on right now.
Let's go Wolves here. We'll go through sort of a list of all of the different teams that are potentially making moves in the Twin Cities the next week. But free agency opens up in 10 days officially. This kind of feels like you put it this way before we crack the mics. The calm before the storm in the NBA. So what are you sensing now in terms of what the Wolves want to accomplish over the next 2 weeks or so once the floodgates open, Dukes?
They want to upgrade the front court. They are planting many seeds. The path that Rosas has openly talked about, Glenn Taylor too, going back many months, now is the time. That he's openly talked about, hey, the real way for us to improve this roster. Now, they can go out and sign a free agent for a minimal type deal, maybe a little bit more than the minimum depending on service time. But the real path to improving this roster heading into next season is the trade route that Gerson is planting many, many seeds. It's not just Ben Simmons. Yes, the Wolves badly want Ben Simmons, but if they don't get Ben Simmons, they're going to find somebody else that can help them in the front court. Is that a 5-man? Is that a 4-man? I mean, they could use, some rim protection. Miles Turner, a specific name, he makes so much sense, but does Indiana really want to move Miles Turner? If they do, they're looking for a pretty good immediate return. They're not hitting the reset button with Rick Carlisle as their coach, but I can make a case that Miles Turner would be a great 5-man for the Wolves. Shift Karl Anthony Towns, who is skinny as heck. I don't know if you've seen some recent photos. Now you can bulk up right before camp. Guys do this a lot, but he's dropped some pounds. He looks like he's ready to move on the perimeter, guard some
Where can I find
stretch
these?
fours.
Like Instagram?
Instagram, Facebook. I don't know. I've seen them all over the place. Some of the Wolves sites, Reddit Wolves site. If you look, there's some photos out there that Cat has put out there from some of his workouts. I mean, he looks to be in phenomenal shape, but maybe he's too skinny. Maybe he needs to bulk up a little bit. But there's time until training camp in mid-September to late September. So he's got a few weeks here to if he wants to add a little bit of muscle, he can do that. But I'm just saying, you can make a case regardless, of adding a rim protector or not, that Cat is going to play some 4 next year, that he's going to have to chase some guys around the perimeter. I actually think he's capable. I remember rookie year. It was one instance, but Steph Curry's got the ball, and Cat did a pretty good job of guarding Steph. He can move his feet when he cares, when he gives a crap on that end. He can be at least an adequate defender. So, I mean, they're looking to upgrade the front court. Our mutual friend Dame Moore threw out the idea of Danilo Gallinari. I can tell you Atlanta is looking to upgrade at backup point guard. Would you do Rubio for Gallinari?
Oh, my God. In a freaking, yesterday, I would make that trade.
8 days a week.
Yes.
Yes. But there's other guys, right? I've brought up Lauri Markkanen of Chicago, Kyle Kuzma of the Lakers. Derek Jones Jr. was a guy they went after in free agency last winter. Depending on what Portland does, Portland has some cap issues, but they may end up blowing things up. He's another guy to keep an eye on. So, I mean, there are guys out there like Steve Adams. You can get him out of New Orleans. Does he do anything for you? Would you want to put Steve Adams next to Cat? So, I mean, there's endless possibilities. I'm not suggesting that Steve Adams is high atop their list. It's more maybe the other names I brought up. A point is they are working diligently to upgrade their front court.
Reckless speculation.
Love it.
In trying to tie the pieces of the Wolves puzzle together, let me ask you this. So A-Rod and Lauri were approved to take over 20% of the team, but clearly the goal in mind is eventually to get to 60%, which we know is going to take some time here. But
and money, right, Judd? I mean,
and money. Well, right.
They're in right now at $250 million. They got a lot more money to throw in to get to that 60% threshold. They have time,
sure.
But they need to find the money.
But my question is this: off of their now involvement with the franchise and being investors, and I think we're talking about two guys who are probably wound pretty tightly when it comes to trying to win and have an impact. Do you expect anything in the short term to change as far as the priority on the pressure to make deals to improve right now? Because I will say this: if they have the money eventually and they get the club and things go smoothly, which is an if, but let's say that happens, it's going to behoove them if the team's trajectory has gone way up from right now. So do you expect changes in how things operate at all because of this shift that we are going to see in who runs this team, and going from Glenn, who is a Mankato Ma and Pa guy, to two guys that are probably wired very differently than Glenn? I think I'm putting that nicely.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Laurie with his New York background, they are absolutely what you just said. I'll tell you this much. I mean, A-Rod is going to be involved, right? When they're recruiting a guy, even if they don't have the cap space, right? I mean, they didn't have the cap space a couple summers ago for D'Angelo Russell, yet they spend all this money, get him in the helicopter. They produced a very expensive recruiting video for Ricky Rubio before he landed in Phoenix. Like A-Rod's going to be involved in stuff like that. I think the window, it's closing to some extent anyway, Judd. Like, the clock is ticking on Cat. At some point, like Cat's good friend Devin Booker, comes within a couple wins of being a champion. Like, Cat sees that. Cat hears from his friends in the league, hey, like, you need to make some noise in May and June. Do something in the postseason. He's got 3 years left in his contract, right? Now, one could argue on the other side, hey, maybe the Wolves should trade Cat, trade Russell, build this thing around Anthony Edwards. Like Anthony should be the alpha. But they don't think like that. Like, they want Cat to be a part of this thing. So with 3 years left in that deal, I'm telling you, Judd, regardless of A-Rod and Mark's presence, the pressure is on. It absolutely is on.
Dude, I think
the expectation next year is they're a top 10 team. And if they're not a top 10 team, and it's not going to be that hard to be a top 10 team, just make the play-in tournament. But I think the aspirations are even going to be bigger than that.
I think Cat and I don't know how this works in terms of if you have to have an actual conversation or if it just happens organically, but we were doing an episode a couple days ago on what can the Wolves learn from the Bucks. And obviously you need a Giannis, you need someone at some point to be your alpha, go into a dark place and lift the team up either in a game or in a series, right? We agree that Cat's not really that guy. And, Cat can go and drop 35, 40 points, but like the guy who has the best chance of being that type of a leader is Anthony Edwards. And so I don't know, Dukes, I'm intrigued by the idea of Edwards taking another step, really solidifying himself as the leader of this team, and Cat being that really good complementary piece, almost like Anthony Davis is in Los Angeles. I mean, but we're so far away from the Wolves being relevant in the postseason, but that feels like the path.
Yeah, which is okay. Like, if you want to use the parallel to the Bucks, Chris Middleton gets a lot of love. Drew Holiday gets a lot of love. That's fine if it's Giannis's team, but like those guys get their due, right? So I think Cat would be okay if Ant ascends to that type level. He turns 20 here in a couple weeks, so he's still a teenager. And there's still a long way to go, right? Like, his shot still needs work. Shot selection needs work. The defensive end needs work, right? But yeah, like, I think Cat would be okay with that, Phil. I do. I really do. Like, I think after, what is it now, 6 years in the league? Is it 6 or 7 for Cat? I think he's through 6.
He's going through 6, I believe. Yeah,
through 6.
And he's made the playoffs one time, and he hears it all the time. Like, Cat, you made the playoffs because of Jimmy Butler. Like, it wasn't you. It was Jimmy. So Cat is ready to shed that stigma. So, yeah, I think if he's the 1B to Edwards' 1A, that's a really good thing. And I think he's open arms, in a scenario like that. But, yeah, I mean, so much just to go right. But I agree. Like, you think about when the new Bucks ownership took over, many, many years ago, where the Bucks were. They were insignificant in the state of Wisconsin, right? Like, it was Badgers, Packers, Brewers. The Bucks were way down that totem pole, and yeah, I mean, you hit the jackpot on Giannis. A lot of people here, are still kicking themselves that Flip, who went over to Greece and liked Giannis, but he didn't want to pull the trigger on Giannis with that first pick. Remember, they had 2 picks that year, ended up with Gorgie Jang and Shabazz Muhammad. But, like, Flip was intrigued by Giannis. So there's still people here that say, Flip, come on. Like, you were intrigued enough, just pull the trigger. But that's another story. But, yeah, I mean, you go all in on a Drew Holiday-type trade. Milt Newton, by the way, former Wolves interim general manager, assistant general manager. He had his fingerprints on that transaction. So you still need to hit the jackpot on moves like that, making the move for PJ Tucker, a shrewd move, signing Bobby Portis. So you still need to hit on some other moves. But, yeah, I mean, you think about where Milwaukee was 6, 7, 8 years ago to where they are now. Yeah, I mean, if you want to cling to hope, I actually think the better parallel is Phoenix, right, where Phoenix was compared to where Phoenix is right now. But it shows it's possible. It absolutely is possible. But, like, the time is now. Like, envision if the Wolves fail miserably next season, don't capture one of those playoff spots, or maybe it's one and done in the play-in tournament, that's when the chatter is going to grow louder, that real change needs to take place. And, like Gerson, I mean, the clock's ticking on him too. I mean, Dr. Robbie Sicca is out. Robbie and A-Rod have had some conversations. I can guarantee the relationship between Robbie and Gerson came up. I mean, there's all sorts of different whispers. Gerson's not in trouble by any stretch. He's got plenty of time to get this thing going, really, really going. But I'm just saying, I mean, the clock's ticking for many people over there.
Oh, I thought you were going to play. Thank you.
Speculation.
I was waiting for
And
that.
I still like the future. I do. I like the future. I don't think they're that far away. I really don't. Right? Like, they got to find a way to maintain health. You got to maintain, find a way for all these guys to play 72 plus games next season, or for the most part. But I don't think they're as far away as a lot of people think.
All right, Dukes, what can you tell us about the continuing stories that the Wild is either pursuing or at least in on the Jack Eichel sweepstakes?
Yeah, I mean, they're in. Like somebody who absolutely knows stuff said it starts at the ownership level, that the owner's all about, the Wild finding a way to acquire Jack Eichel. But I get the injury concern. We still don't even know if he's going to undergo surgery or not.
Yeah.
It's a huge, huge contract, but like at this moment, I have no sense that the Wild are out. Put it that way, Judd. Like, I know there's some national steam that some teams are out. They're no longer talking to Buffalo. My sense is the Wild are still engaged with Buffalo. So, the roster freeze ends here in about 90 minutes. Let's see if something happens here, pretty quick heading into the first round tomorrow night. Not that, the Wild's first round picks are necessarily in play in any potential trade, but yeah, they're still in on Eichel. They're going to need to sign multiple defensemen. They're going to engage Ian Cole's agent again today. They've been talking to Ian Cole's agent here for a while, trying to wrap up a deal before free agency starts. They'd like to get a deal done with Cole here pretty quick. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what moves Billy makes, but he's absolutely trying to make some moves.
Is there any real threat of Kaprizov just going back to Russia? How do you read this situation?
Yeah, I mean, I even talked to Nick Bukestad, his teammate, about that. Nick was also at this charity event on Monday, and, he said, hey, he does think that Kirill would love to play for Russia in the Winter Olympics next year, that if he signed in the KHL, that would give him the opportunity to play for Russia in the Olympics. But in the end, Nick feels the same way I do. So many others feel that Kirill, showing what he can do at the highest level, wants to continue down that path. That he's an NHL player, he's not a KHL player. But the only leverage him and his agent literally have is the KHL. Like, he can't sign an offer sheet with, you name the team that's got, cap space right now in the National Hockey League. It doesn't work like that. So literally, like, his only bargaining chip is, screw you, Billy. Like, I'm going back to Russia. I'm playing in
what he would say?
In the KHL. And he's over there now, so
Bill,
I'm sure there's
you.
people in Kirill's ear right now in Moscow saying, stay over here.
Absolutely.
Like, this is your home. There's no reason for you to go back to Minnesota. Stay here. Play here. But I think in the end, like, I would be surprised if he's not a member of the Wild next season.
On the Twins front, obviously, Dukes, the trade deadline is approaching on July 30th, as we talked about. So, what right now, beyond the fact that I think Cruz gets traded, Simmons gets traded, that group of guys probably gets moved. What can you tell us about, Barrios, Buxton? What would be the high-profile trades that could get the Twins a big return?
Call me nuts. I think all the high-profile guys, Rogers, Buxton, Barrios, are here on July 31st. That I don't think a trade materializes. Never say never, because they haven't made much progress on the Buxton extension front, so it seems like a trade is inevitable, unfortunately. I would pay the man. I've established that, but I don't think they're willing to meet the high asking price. They're willing to pay him a good amount, but not quite the amount him and his representation are seeking.
So is there a number? Does the Barrios camp have a number that says if you meet this, we won't go to free agency?
Well, you're talking the Barrios camp or the Buxton camp?
Well, I was thinking Barrios, but either.
Well, Barrios, I mean, I think the number is closer to what Zach Wheeler is making. Now, is the term potentially less? Doesn't necessarily have to be the 5 years, 118 that Zach Wheeler got from Philadelphia. You could go 3 where Barrios pitches his ages 28, 29, and 30 seasons, then re-enters the market before he turns 31 and can still hit the jackpot again. So like I'm not dismissing the idea of like a 3-year deal for Barrios compared to a 5-year deal.
Be awesome.
But I think on an annual basis, it's closer to what Wheeler is making compared to what McCullers Jr. is making. So you can do the math on that. McCullers Jr. with the Astros 5 years, 85 or 90 million. Wheeler 5 years, 118, which is closer to what, 22, 23 million a year. I mean, I think it's closer to that Wheeler money on an annual basis.
Yeah, I mean, I do it.
Well, yeah. Dukes.
Well, I mean, Phil, we heard about years ago when they built Target Field. The idea was to be more competitive.
Yeah.
They have money. When you think about some of the money coming off the books in the coming years, especially after this year with Cruz and Happ and Shoemaker and Robles and Simmons, I mean, they have some financial flexibility. If they need to create more, you can always trade Max Kepler. I'm not suggesting the return is going to be astronomical, but you can always make a Max Kepler trade if you really need to create, more wiggle room. But I'm with you. I would pay the man. They'll get some additional local TV revenue here in the next couple of years with the Bally Sports North deal expiring. Like, to me, there are no excuses. Like, my expectation is they should pay Buxton. They should pay Barrios.
Hey, Dukes, on Buxton. So we know that going back a few years that they basically suppressed his service time to gain the extra year before he could hit the free agent market. Lavelle wrote in the Star Tribune this week, though, that Buxton basically has told people, or he has heard, that Buxton wants to stay here and wants to come back. What do we know about the relationship between Buxton and the franchise? And is Lavelle reflecting what Buxton is saying about his fellow teammates, do you think? Because I can't believe that after what's happened with him, he's in love with the management here. So do we know how that sort of shakes out on what Buxton's feeling is?
I mean, Judd, if he loved it that much, he would have taken one of their 4 or 5 offers the last couple of years.
Right.
He wants to get paid. Now, if the money comes from the Twins, yeah, he'll put pen to paper. He'll stay here for the next 5, 6, 7 years. They need to pay up. But yeah, I mean, going back a few Septembers ago with the manipulation of the service time, them not calling up Buxton, if they had, he'd be a free agent this winter, not a year from this winter. Just some of the disagreements on the many injuries and, just the process and him getting back to the field, back to the 26-man roster. Yeah, I think there's been some headbanging, but I also think there's probably a sense of, he's, I don't want to say forever indebted, but the Twins took the chance, even if he was, just about the consensus number 1 prospect that draft class. He didn't go number 1. The Astros passed on him, so the Twins didn't have to take him at pick 2. He could have kept falling. So I think going back to 2012, the Twins pulling the trigger, drafting him number 2 overall, you got to remember that, right? This is the franchise, even if it's different people, some of the same people, but clearly some different people, you still feel, a sense of fulfillment that way that hey, this is the organization that bet on me, that I feel like, hey, if I can stay here, it would be great. But he's got other people in his ear like Torrey Hunter. I mean, Torrey left, right? Then came back, and Torrey loves the Twins, but there's other people in Buck's ear saying, get yours. Like, this is your time. This is probably the only time he's really going to strike it rich.
Yeah.
Like, this is his one opportunity. So I don't think he's going to sign. Like, they offered him a 6-year deal a few years ago for about $50 million with multiple team options. I mean, that was an easy no. This latest 6 or 7 year offer for $70-ish million, with some escalators, my sense is pretty easy no. Like, the Twins need to go significantly higher. And if they do, he'll stay. But I think he likes Rocco. I think he likes a lot of his teammates. Like, I don't think there's any animosity in the clubhouse. All his teammates see how hard he works. I mean, that guy's work ethic is the best in that clubhouse. So I think there's a lot of respect, mutual respect. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to management, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things we can question with that relationship going back at least 2018, but we can go back even further than that.
By the way,
Reckless speculation.
this Twin speculation and discussion powered by our friends at Dennis Kirk. Dennis Kirk is here, whatever you ride, whether it's a Harley a metric cruiser, a sport bike, you'll find what you need at DennisKirk.com. 160,000 parts and accessories in stock. DennisKirk.com. They ship today if you order by 8 p.m. Some rapid-fire scoops, Doogie. What else you got in the scoop bag?
Well, so I think realistically speaking, we're talking Nelly Cruz. Michael Pineda looked pretty good. You know, the strikeouts weren't there last night, but you can probably fetch something for Pineda. I know the Padres weren't there last night, but they did scout him recently. Not that the Padres are the one team to watch, but they've scouted him. The Reds had a scout at Guaranteed Rate Field the last few days, watching more so Simmons and Robles. But if you're the Reds, are you really jumping over the Brewers in the Central? I don't see the path for the Reds to make the playoffs. The wild card spots seem to be the West teams. You know, one of those teams, the Giants, Padres, Dodgers, wins the division. The other two are the two National League wild cards. But the Reds had free agent interest in Simmons last winter. You know, they need an upgrade at the shortstop position. So, you know, the Reds on Robles and Simmons, but there's other teams. I mean, the Mets are looking to do some stuff. Heck, the Phillies with Terry Ryan's influence are looking to do some stuff. Terry would love to have Jose Barrios in a Phillies uniform. The Mets would love to have Jose Barrios. The Twins are going to be active. I need to hear more to suggest that they're blowing this thing up, that they feel like, hey, we're not going to compete in 2022. Yeah. With the mindset that they're going to compete in 2022, I mean, that entails Barrios being the likely opening day starter or in the opening day rotation, and Buxton in the lineup and Taylor Rogers as your closer.
Yeah, there he is. That's the godfather of inside information, the new godfather.
Reckless speculation.
Inside information about your local sports teams here in Minnesota. Dukes, we'll talk next week, man.
Okay, sounds good, guys. Yeah, and things are going to ramp up next week. I mean, on the NBA front, we're going to hear a lot more. I mean, it's the cliche of all cliches, but calm before the storm. It's going to ramp up. I think it'll be Monday, maybe it's Tuesday, but yeah, certainly when Judd and I go back and forth on Tuesday morning or afternoon, there should be a lot more information on the Wolves.
Yeah, let's get it. Yep, and the Scoop podcast every week, Apple, Spotify, SKORNorth.com. That's Doogie.
Thanks, Dukes.
Okay, see you, boys. Bye-bye.
We'll talk soon. Great stuff there.